I grew up in Los Angeles, and when you live in Los Angeles, celebrity gossip is just kind of a big part of the culture there. As a kid, it was what my friends and I did on play dates. It was what my dad and I talked about on the way home from school. It was kind of a real bond between my dad and I because I was an only child and he was my only parent. So celebrity gossip was always a go-to topic for lighthearted laughter and whatnot. So occasionally, my dad and I would be lucky enough to see a celebrity. We would see Jerry Seinfeld eating a Reuben in our neighborhood deli. One time we saw Jay Leno in one of his antique cars on the 405. And just a few other times we would see people. And the rule, though, the unwritten rule was we were not allowed to talk to them. If we saw a famous person, we could point them out and, enjoy looking at them, but we weren't allowed to go up to them and, say hi or ask for their autograph because, one, we didn't want to make them uncomfortable or be rude, and two, we didn't want them to pull a Jack Nicholson and pull out some golf clubs on us or something. Because there's already enough paparazzi and stuff and people harassing them all the time. So one day, when I was about 10 years old, my dad and I were at the checkout line at the grocery store, and my dad leans over, taps me on the shoulder, and whispers in my ear. He says, "Don't turn around." But right behind us is Angie Dickinson. So, like the expert, poker face, subtle kid I was, I didn't move, and I just said really quietly, "Okay, who's Angie Dickinson?" So my dad just was like playing it cool, and he just leans over again, whispers in my ear. He's like, "Okay, she was an actress and she slept with the president." So then I'm like, okay, I can handle this. Which president? And now you might be thinking, I'm 10 years old, and this is my father, and this is a little bit, not kid appropriate here, but in second grade, just to give you some background, I wrote a book report on Barbra Streisand. I read her biography, so that's where I learned what an extramarital affair was. So it was okay. This is normal in Los Angeles. So anyway, so when my dad answered my question, which president, he said, it was Kennedy, I kind of lost it at that point. We were in the line at the grocery store. There were people behind us, most closely Angie Dickinson. There's people all around, lots going on. But this shocked me because I liked Kennedy. I knew who he was. I also did a report on him. So I just said, I think I may have hit my hand on the counter. I was like, "What a slut." 100% true. So at this point, this was not whispered. Everybody around me stopped what they were doing. It's a big moment of awkward silence. My father turned bright red and just kind of kept his head down, kind of moment where he's like, "What have I done as a parent?" And I realized I'd made a mistake, and I looked around, and right before things resumed as normal, right before people realized I was just another inappropriately raised LA kid, I saw Angie Dickinson's eyes, and I met her eyes. And I saw something in her eyes that stuck with me forever after that, which was shame. And it was the kind of shame that was multiple-fold, I guess you could say. It was shame in herself, and it was also shame on me, because I had shamed her in public, but then I also saw that she was ashamed of herself for so many reasons, and this was something she couldn't shake, no matter what, for the rest of her life. And so after that, I grew up, I watched her movies, I learned more about Kennedy, and I learned more about his character, which shaded my color of his character a little bit too. And it just came to think a lot about the idea of shame and the idea that you can respect somebody for their work and for what they produce and what they put out into the world, and you can separate that from their character. And that's something I think a lot about as a musician and as a marketing professional, musician turned into a marketing professional and vice versa. And I think a lot about that concept as I give people the benefit of the doubt in life, and also give that to myself in my next brush with fame, whatever that may be. Thank you.